Prince Philip is best known as the husband of Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom. But did you know they were also cousins through both of Philip's parents? This video will dive into the history of Andrew of Greece and Denmark and Alice of Battenberg, two individuals with fascinating backgrounds. Prince Andrew of Greece and Denmark was born in Tatooine Palace on the 2nd of February 1882. He was the fourth son of George I of Greece and Olga Konstantinova of Russia. He was both a Prince of Greece and a Prince of Denmark. Being able to speak Greek, Danish, German, French, English and Russian, he chose only to speak in Greek to his parents. His education was thorough. He attended a cadet school and staff college in Athens. In 1901, he joined the army as a cavalry officer. While in London in 1902, Andrew met Princess Alice of Battenberg. They fell in love, and a year later, on the 6th of October 1903, they were wed in a civil ceremony in Darmstadt. The next day, two religious wedding services were performed, one in the Lutheran faith and one in the Greek Orthodox faith. The couple had 5 children together: Margarita, Theodora, Cecily, Sophie and Philip. In 1909, Prince Andrew resigned from the Greek army after the political situation in Greece became unstable, and a group of officers formed the Greek Nationalist Military League. During the Balkan Wars in 1912, Andrew rejoined the army as a lieutenant colonel, and that same year his father was assassinated. In 1917, after King Constantine's policy of neutrality had failed, the king abdicated, and Andrew and his family were forced into exile, spending much of their time in Switzerland. Constantine's second son, Alexander, became the king of Greece until he died from a monkey bite infection. Constantine was restored as king and the royal family were allowed to return to Greece. Andrew rejoined the army again and was given command of the 2nd Army Corps during the Battle of Sakarya. Andrew followed his own battle plans, much to the annoyance of the commanding general, Papalos. Andrew was then placed on leave before being transferred to the Supreme Army Council. In 1922, he became the commander of the 5th Army Corps in Epirus and the Ionian Islands. Following the 11th of September 1922 revolution, Andrew was arrested and found guilty with disobeying an order. Many of those found guilty of treason following the revolution were executed. Andrew's life was spared, but he was banished from Greece for life. He and his family fled aboard HMS Calypso and lived on the outskirts of Paris in a small house lent to them by Andrew's sister-in-law, Princess George of Greece. They were also stripped of their Greek nationality and had to travel under Danish passports. After exile, the family became increasingly separated. Suffering from bad mental health, Alice was institutionalized in Switzerland. Their daughters married German princes and moved to Germany, and their only son Philip was sent to Britain to live with his mother's relatives. Andrew continued to live in the south of France. His marriage to Alice was very much over by this point, and after she left the sanatorium, she returned to Greece. In 1937, their daughter Cecily, their son-in-law, and 2 of their grandchildren were killed in an air crash. At the funeral, he met Alice and Philip for the first time in many years. During the Second World War, Andrew was trapped in France, while his son fought on the British side of the war. His daughter's husbands fought on the German side. In 1944, Andrew died of heart failure near the end of the war. He left much of his estate to his son, but also a hefty debt from years of extravagant spending on his mistress. Princess Alice of Battenberg was born on the 25th of February 1885 in Windsor Castle, in the presence of her great-grandmother Queen Victoria. Her full name was Victoria Alice Elizabeth Julia Marie, but she went by her second name, Alice. She was the eldest child of Prince Louis of Battenberg and Princess Victoria of Hessen by Rhine. Her grandmother was Princess Alice, the second daughter of Queen Victoria. She had 3 younger siblings, Louise, George and Louis. Alice grew up in Darmstadt, London, Guggenheim and Malta. As a child, she was slow to learn to talk and had difficulty pronouncing certain words. She was eventually diagnosed with congenital deafness. Over time, and with encouragement from her mother, she learned to lip read and speak in English and German. In 1902, after Edward VII's coronation, Alice met Prince Andrew of Greece and Denmark, and they fell in love. They were married in 1903 in a civil ceremony as well as 2 religious ceremonies. She was then known as Princess Andrew. Due to both of them being closely related to many of the royal families of Europe, their wedding was one of the greatest gatherings of Queen Victoria and King Christian IX of Denmark's descendants. Alice and Andrew had 5 children. As the political situation in Greece worsened, Alice and her family were exiled from Greece in 1922. They lived on the outskirts of Paris, and Alice became very religious, converting to the Greek Orthodox Church in 1928. In 1930, her mental health had deteriorated, and she was diagnosed with schizophrenia. She was later admitted to a sanatorium in Switzerland against her will. She and Andrew drifted apart during this time. Her daughters married and her son was sent to stay in the UK with her relatives. After she was released from the sanatorium, Alice maintained little contact with her family until 1937, when her daughter, her son-in-law and 2 of her grandchildren were killed in an air crash. She attended the funeral, meeting her husband and son for the first time in years. After this, she maintained contact with her family. Alice returned to Athens in 1938 and worked with the poor. During the Second World War, Alice worked for the Red Cross. She organised soup kitchens and flew medical supplies into the country. She also set up 2 orphanages. The Axis forces had taken control of Greece and assumed that Alice was pro-Nazi, as her son-in-laws were fighting in the German army. However, she was not and did not support nor condone what the Nazis were doing. Alice also hid Rachel Cohen and 2 of her children. They were Jewish and were evading the Gestapo. Near the end of the war, she was informed of her husband's death. They had hoped to reunite after the war, but that was not to be. In 1947, Alice returned to the UK for the wedding of her son to Princess Elizabeth of the United Kingdom. None of her daughters were invited due to their Nazi ties. In 1949, Alice founded a nursing order of Greek Orthodox nuns. In 1953, she attended her daughter-in-law's coronation. In 1967, Alice left Greece following the colonel's coup, and she resided in Buckingham Palace from then on. Alice passed away on the 5th of December 1969, leaving no possessions behind after giving everything away while she was still alive. Both Andrew and Alice led interesting and eventful lives and pursued their interests and beliefs even when questioned by others.